Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Anthony Salas, and on behalf of the American Marketing Association, I'd like to welcome you to today's webcast sponsored by Outbound Software entitled The Importance of Outbound Marketing in SEO. We here at the AMA provide you with this webcast as one of the many special programs we offer to the marketing community, and we invite you to participate in this ongoing series of free web seminars to help you drive the greatest return on your marketing investments. Whether it's in research, advertising, promotions, social media, and beyond, our webcasts offer education in all key areas of marketing, so make sure to join us every week for these thought leader webcasts that do feature some of the most expert minds in marketing. You can find out more information by going to marketingpower.com/webcast. And as a heads up, we will be sponsoring a contest in the month of November, and in time for the holidays, it'll give you a chance to win a $250 Amazon gift card. Every AMA webcast that you attend during that month will automatically register you for that contest. So please look ahead to the webcast coming up in the month of November and get your registration in. You can go to marketingpower.com/webcast and see the list of webcasts coming up during that month. Again, every webcast does automatically register you for that great prize of a $250 Amazon gift card. So good luck with that. And before we do get started with today's webcast, I would like to cover a few housekeeping items. Our webcast today is being recorded and will be made available to you very soon. If you have any technical or content-related questions during the webcast, you can use the chat box located to the left of your viewing screen. Technical questions will be addressed as soon as they are received, and content-related questions will be addressed at the end of the presentation, but feel free to enter those in that chat box at any point. And also a reminder, we are on Twitter today, so if you would like to join the conversation there, hashtag for today's webcast is ActOnSoftware. And before we go ahead and get started, I'd like to tell you a little bit about today's speaker. Cyndie Shaffstall is the founder and CEM of Spider Trainers. Cyndie has been a successful entrepreneur for more than 30 years, and at each company she has learned to convert prospects to customers. And as founder and CEM of Spider Trainers, she is now focused solely on the marketing of other people and their companies. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and turn things over to Cyndie to get things started.
Thank you, Anthony. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this discussion on the important role that outbound marketing plays in your search engine optimization. So SEO has been around for quite a while now. It's certainly a buzzword. It seems a little bit nebulous, especially when you have to turn to professionals to help you. But SEO is not rocket science. It really is based on common sense. And in this slide deck, I'm going to show you a lot of common sense approaches to improving your search engine optimization. But my feeling and the position of our company is that we start with search engine optimization at the point of engagement. And for many of us, that means at the email. So first, search engines retain customers when they successfully return relevant results. If they don't return a relevant result, then you're going to leave. And eventually, over time, if you use the search engine several times and each time you get non-relevant results, you're going to find a different search engine. Slide. The difference between inbound and outbound marketing, which is probably basic to most of you, is that with outbound marketing, you're asking for the business. You're asking someone to come to your website and save 50% or something along those lines. With inbound marketing, you gain the attention of your prospects when you're visible and when you create content that attracts them to your site. It provides an education process, and they look to you as a trusted advisor and are more likely to spend money with you or to engage in your services because you do have that status. So social media is relevant, of course, to your search engine optimization. I think we can all agree on that when you make social media postings, you try to use your company's keywords and talk about your company. And your website is certainly relevant. In fact, it's the foundation for search engine optimization. And things like press releases are relevant too. We wouldn't send out a press release that didn't ever mention our company or ever mention our keywords. So if all of those things are important to your search engine optimization efforts, then I think the argument is that outbound marketing, your emails, are every bit as important. Slide. So for the purpose of this discussion, I want to focus on a certain cast of characters, and that is the email, the registration form or engagement form, the landing page, the submission confirmation email, the one that gets into their inbox, and the submission confirmation landing page. So just these 5 different cast of characters, and this entire slide deck is going to refer to these topics. Of course, there are a lot more categories of outbound marketing, but let's focus on these. Slide. So starting with the facts. To be good at search engine optimization, you simply need to think naturally. Do not try to outsmart the search engine. And don't try to use some trick that somebody told you about embedding, images and all that sort of thing. Don't do it. Just think naturally, be honest, accurate, validated, and credible. And if you keep those 4 things in mind, then you're going to rank well naturally. And you can stop worrying about the next iteration of Google's search engine criteria. Those things are important, but if you think and act naturally and you are honest, accurate, validated, and credible, you don't have to worry about the next iteration. Sometimes, though, with search engine optimization, you really do have to work at the HTML level or the CSS level. And it really is unfortunate, because if you didn't have to do that, then everyone could participate at the same level. But because you do have to have some technical expertise in some areas, it does sort of raise the bar of what's required. But we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to keep it to a bare minimum. I'll try to talk at a high level and not lose you on the technology. So spiders are listening all the time. And when I talk about act naturally and think about your SEO in a natural, honest manner, you are writing content for the human visitor. You're not writing content for the spider. Don't think like that. Think about the people who come to your website and what they want to learn. And if you do it appropriately for the visitor, the spiders are listening, and they will naturally rank you higher because that visitor is more engaged. So as you engage me, you're establishing a relationship subconsciously or consciously between your company and the words on which I'm searching, but you're doing it for me, the human, and the spider just happens to be listening in. Slide. So to get started with SEO and Outbound, we really do need to start at your website. So even though this slide deck is not designed to be about how you optimize your website, we do need to spend a little bit of time there in order to set the stage for our Outbound. Search engine is about your site's position in search engine results, or SER. So you have to do the legwork, and you have to understand who's coming to your site and what keywords did they use to get to your site. What keywords do you want them to use to get to your site? And importantly, what is the depth that you have at your site to support your outbound marketing? So depth is really important. We are going to get there. The first thing is you have to get to know me. You have to understand the people that visit your site. If, for instance, you have a site that's about a university, you have very disparate visitors. You have the student, you have the student's parents, you have the tenured professors, you have all these different audiences. Now, they are linked together with a common thread, but the reason that they visit your website is going to be different. With students, maybe they're interested in when the next semester starts or downloading their grades. And with parents, they're interested in what are the tuition fees. And the teachers are interested in, the layout of the new campus or all these different things. So understand who's coming to your site. And I've found it very helpful, and I actually got this tip from another book, but I found it very helpful to create a spreadsheet and actually list the different kinds of visitors that are at my site. And I write a full description. I say Tim, and he's 25, and he's a linguistics major, and he's here from out of state, and and his external interests are maybe baseball. So I write that out in a spreadsheet, and then I actually go on and I find some little stock image of what Tim might look like, and then I use that spreadsheet to really remind me of who's coming to my site, and then I build content that engages Tim, and then Tim's mom and dad, and then Tim's professors. So take the time to really understand who's coming. Slide, please. The next thing you want to do is create a list of keywords. And these are the words that Tim or Tim's parents or Tim's professor is going to type into a search engine to find you. Now, you have to sort of resist the urge to type in only the words you think are necessary. Go back to that spreadsheet, have a look at Tim, and think like Tim. What would I type into a search engine in order to find what I want at this university's website? So add your keywords to your persona's spreadsheet. If you have an e-commerce site, make sure that you duplicate all your words and then add things like best price, budget, buy now, local buying, those sorts of things. If you're a brick and mortar store, you want to duplicate your keywords and add your city name, your county name, your state name, whatever your region is. And in that way, you will have a full list of keywords that really help you to reach the right market. Then evaluate your site and make sure that you've actually done what your spreadsheet just told you to do. Slide. The last part of this is to make sure you have the depth. The depth is important to your website, of course, just as a general topic, but it's even more important when you start doing outbound marketing. You want to make sure that when you send a message out that says, we just released a new version of our product, that when I get to your website, I can actually find that, and I can find enough information that really engages me and encourages me to buy that product. This is one of the most important things, and it's really one of the places that we struggle most with our clients. They get a little bit ahead of the game because they want to send out an email about this brand new product version that they released, but there's not enough information yet at the website. And whether or not you send that recipient to your website to learn about that product, if they're interested, they will go there on their own. And if they fail to find that product information, they will abandon. Not always, of course, but generally speaking. So slide. Sorry. So one of the things you're probably thinking is, well, not all of you, because many of you do use your analytics software, but how do we know these things? Well, we track everything. We have a big philosophy centered around never miss an opportunity to learn something. And in order to learn those things, you have to track them. You have to track the front end and the back end. So in the back end, in your website, you're probably using Google Analytics, which is free. And honestly, I think that Google Analytics is appropriate in 99% of the cases. If you're using some other software, that's perfectly fine. But free is always good, and it's a good software. So it gives you the information about how long the visitor's been there, who's coming in, from where they came, where they're going. So analytics software is critical. Slide. But analytics on the front end, on your outbound marketing, that point of engagement, it is just as critical. Now, we chose Act-On Software, which is why they invited us here, but we chose them because they have this wonderfully robust visibility on what's happening with that email. And the people that are on our list, how are they engaging with our site, or how are they engaging with our social media? Now, you may be using a marketing automation software that doesn't give you that depth. And that's okay. You can have less depth, but it has to be enough depth that you can understand the success of your campaigns and that you can respond to things that are happening. Analytics software can easily tell you whether or not your message is on target. It can even tell you things like, is my button in the right place on this email, or my subject line's right? So analytics, front end, back end, are very important to outbound marketing. Slide. One more area that you really need to pay attention to are links. When you send out outbound marketing, of course, every outbound marketing message has links to somewhere. Typically, at some point, you're going to get them to your website. Now, you probably had an intermediary landing page, or maybe you had a form, but eventually you are going to give them links to your website. So if you build a link and you say something like, come see our webcast on SEO marketing, or the importance of SEO in marketing, click here. Do you put your link, your hot text, on click here? If you do, you can join the bazillions of other people that do and that are doing it wrong. When you hot link the words click here, what you're doing is elevating your visibility for that phrase, click here. And you're competing with every other person on the planet who's trying to compete with click here. But that's not your phrase. Your phrase is, see our webcast on SEO marketing. Click here. So take that whole phrase and put your link on that phrase. That's going to be important down the road in your analytics. You're going to be able to see more about that. And What you also want to do is make sure that that text describes what's going to happen, that you're appropriately setting the expectation. If you say, click here to see our webcast, and you actually take them to a page that doesn't even talk about the webcast, that's no longer a relevant link, and you've lost my interest, so I'm going to leave. You did not get what you expected. I didn't get what I expected. Remember to be honest. Make sure that your link accurately, honestly, appropriately describes the page that I'll get to. And as a sidebar, this is critical in PPC. When you do pay-per-click marketing, if your ad does not appropriately set the expectation of me to my expectation for when I click through, I'm going to leave. And that will contribute to a very high bounce rate. So make sure that you're appropriate in your links. Slide. This is one of those areas where you kind of have to dig in under the hood, and that's called a link title. In addition to building a link, you can title your link. Now, you can title the link in an abbreviated manner or in a verbose manner, and it really depends on the link. But that title helps to describe to the spider, because remember the spiders are watching. You're doing it for me, but the spiders are watching. So that link will help describe to the spider what's really going to happen. And it's a validation process. The spider looks at your link and says, hey, this link is supposed to go to a webcast on SEO. The spider follows the link and gets to a page that, hey, guess what? It's about SEO. And the title said, if you follow this link, you're going to go to a page about SEO. And sure enough, all three things happen. And that gets you gold stars with any search engine. Slide. Now, we have that link built. We get to the page. Make sure that page is truly relevant. So you were honest in your link. You were honest in your title. The page really is about an SEO webcast. But then I got here, and you start wandering off on this discussion about what you had for lunch. You told me that I could go and learn about boxer puppies, but I got there, and I'm learning about your lunch. This is not relevant, and I'm going to leave. Slide. When I leave, this contributes to my bounce rate. In Google Analytics, it's one of the most important things you can monitor. However, be careful about monitoring it across all pages. You really want to understand your bounce rate on a per-page level, not per site, because there are pages within your site, or sometimes there are pages within your site that are appropriate for a high bounce rate. Hey, I just wanted them to see this message. The message is 10 seconds long. I expected them to leave, and I didn't give them any options for engaging further with the site. So that page deserves a bounce, and it deserves a very high bounce rate. So make sure that you're watching your bounce rate on a per-page level. Now, if you are appropriate in your link and appropriate in your link title, your click-through rate is going to be lower because you're going to satisfy the curiosity of those who are mildly curious. Hey, what is this link about? Oh, it's about adopting boxer puppies. Okay, well, I don't need to go see that page, so I'm not going to click. I'm not interested in that topic. When you are vague and you send me over there and then the topic is completely random, that's the bounce. Slide. Now, time on site is also something you should measure. And again, you can look at this number in Google Analytics as the time on your entire website, but it's much more useful to you on a per-page basis. If you have an outbound marketing event and you sent me to a page within your site, what you really want to know is how long did you engage me as the recipient of that campaign. So the search engines measure time on site. This is a very important measurement. And what the search engine assumes is if, for instance, you go into a search engine, Google, you type a phrase, they return a page, I go to that page, I stick around. I look at that page for several minutes, in fact. And oh, by the way, I visited some other pages on your site. The search engines are then convinced that the page that was returned was relevant, and this is that important thing. So time is of the essence. You want to make sure that you keep them on the page for as long as possible. Appropriate links will gain you that. Slide. Now, once I'm on that page, you want to extend my visit. And the easiest way to extend the visit is by adding either in-page menus or buttons, or some other thing on a related topic. You've already established that I was interested in that topic. You've gotten me to the page. I stuck around for a little while. Now give me some options for extending that visit. The more pages that I visit during my visit to your site, the better you will rank in search engine results. So again, in-page menus, great way. The other nice thing about in-page menus is that you can actually funnel customers intentionally through the funnel that you want them to take. And once you have that understood, what is really relevant to them, then you can work on shortening the funnel so that if you are, for instance, an e-commerce site, you can shorten the number of clicks it takes to actually get someone to make a purchase. So lower bounce rate, longer engagement, extend the stay will equal higher rankings. Slide. So now we're ready to get back into that outbound. We've set the stage and we're ready to talk about how outbound marketing influences this. In our site, we have personas, keywords, depth. In our best practices, we have links, link titles, relevance, bounce rate, time on site, and extending the visit. Go to email. Slide. The first part of our email is the subject line, although I have to admit this is typically the last piece of the email that we add after we've created something, but subject line first. Your subject line should include your keywords. Now let's just test that theory for a second, because I actually have a lot of marketers who disagree with me on the value of subject line in SEO. But if you post to your social media accounts, you typically try to find ways to integrate your keywords or integrate your company name or your company's products or services. So if it makes sense in social media, why wouldn't it make sense in your subject line? In both cases, we're trying to do the same thing. We're trying to either consciously or subconsciously build a relationship between certain keywords and our product or our site or our company. So if we're subconsciously or consciously trying to do that through social media, of course the subject line should do so as well. Slide. So the next thing that happens in an email, and you've seen this, it's virtually every commercial email you get, whether you're B2B or B2C, you have this little link at the top that says, if this email looks odd to you, click here, or whatever the phrase is. The phrase is not important. This is the view page in browser link. And when you click this link, your email transfers from being a little silo in your inbox into being a web page like all other web pages. And we already know that SEO is important on our web pages. So if this email now is a web page, it just makes sense. So back to the common sense theory. It just makes sense that the web page should be properly optimized. Slide. Another discussion about tags. So we talked a little bit about tags for images, tags for links. So the link titles are a type of tag. Tags are very important to emails. And when you're building an email in HTML, it's so much easier if you don't have to worry about tags. You can make every single line of text in the email a paragraph and then just change the size or the font weight or whatever. When you do that, if a search engine does crawl this as a web page, or even if you're making the association through other means, you're not helping the search engine to prioritize the message in the same way that you would on your web page. If you build a web page, you have the big main title at the top, and that is called the H1 head, or the level 1 head. So H1 head. When a spider comes to that web page and it sees an H1 head, it knows what to expect. It says, hey, this page is going to be about this topic. It's going to be about tags showing. So, okay, so then the spider scans the page. Now, how far down the spider scans is sort of one of those nebulous topics and full of opinion. But so the spider scans the page. And sure enough, there are words similar to your title that are within the page. So then the spider validates that your page really is about this thing that's in the H1 tag. Well, we do that for emails too. We make sure that the most important headline is tagged as an H1 tag. We make sure that subsequent heads are tagged appropriately as H2, H3, and that body text is appropriately tagged as a paragraph. In the event that this page ever gets scanned by a spider, we've followed all the best practices rules. Now, Again, this is my opinion, and plenty of people will disagree with me, but it's what we do. Slide. So now we all include these days, we include social media icons typically in our email, and I am going to come back to this topic because we've done some testing around this, but you include those social media links, and those help too. But don't forget your tags. So when you put that Facebook icon or Twitter icon or LinkedIn icon, I don't care which icon it is, when you put it in there, make sure you tag it. And don't tag it Facebook. Tag it Follow Spider Trainers on Facebook. Tag it, become a Facebook fan, like Facebook, but always put your company name in there or maybe a keyword. It's usually appropriate to put the company name, but make sure you tag it. Just go that extra teeny tiny step to embed that search engine optimization in this outbound vehicle. Additionally, as people do follow you, this is going to start setting off your little analytics triggers, and it might show up in your front end or your back end depending on what type of analytics software you have. Slide. Everyone has seen this email. So this email happened to come to my inbox, but I know you've seen it. You have seen emails just like this. And this particular client did their very best at tagging, and they did a great job at tagging. Unfortunately, there's no content here. So I can't see the page structure, the tags are overlapping, and this is simply tag overload. So while it is best practices to tag your images, be appropriate. Don't tag images that don't contribute to the message. If I don't load your images, which I'm not going to until I know what the message is about, if I don't load your images, you still want the email to look great. You want to make sure that they still can see the message. Besides that, this text-to-image ratio is horrible. This would set off most spam filters. And if you sent through an email automation software like we do through Acton, even Acton would tell me, hey, Cyndie, stop. This is not worth it. So this is going to disengage my customer. Now, slide. Here is an example of a great one. Now, here's another place where lots of designers disagree with me. Many designers feel like you should not set the width and height of your images so that if the image is missing, the page collapses and becomes smaller. Well, I disagree. What I want is for my client to receive a beautiful email, well-structured, whether or not they choose to load the images. So this is one of our clients, and the only downside on this particular email that I see is that the logo, we've appropriately alt-tagged it. That's that little bitty white text you see in the upper left-hand corner. But boy, it would be nice if I could show the logo even if they didn't load the images. So that's a slight downside. We don't want to represent the logo as large text as the H1 text, however, because we want to have the opportunity to maintain the client's branding. So what we did is we put the Hudson Sharp, the very first headline on the page. That is our H1 tag, and we've captured the company name and the product. So we've got that keyword association going, and it's good SEO practices. You'll notice in my bottom right-hand corner that all of the social media icons are appropriate. Follow Hudson Sharp on Facebook. Watch Hudson Sharp on YouTube. So make sure you tag those. The best part about this email is that the image-to-text ratio is wonderful. So this email is much more likely to be delivered and much more likely to be clicked because the client sees or the recipient sees a beautiful email even though they didn't load those images. Slide. We learned that only about 5% of our clients test their emails on other devices. This is a critical component. You have to make sure that you know what that email is going to look like for your client when they receive it. The other thing you need to be checking for is on what device are your clients reading emails. We have one client that 95% of their recipients pick up their email on a smartphone. So we have specifically changed the way that we create their content, and we make sure that it's big and beautiful even on those tiny screens. So it's not as appropriate for the big screen, but it still looks great. So make sure you test. It's not enough to see what it looks like in your browser. Make sure you know what it looks like in everybody's browser. Slide. The next thing you want to do is share that offer. So we're now sending that outbound. Make sure that you go into every one of your social media accounts and post that offer, if it's appropriate. Of course, sometimes you have offers that are only for purchasers of a previous product, and it's not appropriate at that point. But maybe you could run a similar offer and put that in your social media. Now, the key here is that you use your keywords, that you are relevant, and that you set your links up correctly. And then the next key, slide, is that you send it to its own landing page. Do not send all of those social media links to the very same landing page. Make sure that you just duplicate that landing page, and if the only thing you do is say, "Hi Cyndie, welcome from Facebook," or "Hi Facebook fan," if you want to be more generic, you will engage me longer on your landing page, which may or may not be at your website. It might be hosted in your email automation software, but nonetheless, you will engage me longer if you recognize me. If you say, "Hi Facebook fan," and you customize that page just a little bit, doesn't have to be huge, but customize that page and welcome me from Facebook. Customize another page and welcome me from Pinterest, another page and welcome me from Twitter. Make sure that I know that you know who I am. In this way, you start developing a relationship with me, and we start to bond, and the spiders are watching. This is all good for you. Slide. Now, I told you that we would come back and talk a little bit about the social media icons and other things in that initial email, and this is where we're going to do that. We optimize our landing page and our forms as a trackable source for a click. We even install our Google code on both our forms and our landing pages. But what we're learning a little bit about is, and we can go to the next slide, please. What we're learning a little bit about is that we have started taking everything out of the email. We have taken out the social media icons. We have taken out any kind of links that do not directly relate to the offer. We have even taken out links to our website, except in the case of the small footer at the bottom. So the only thing they're getting is one email with a click that goes into either a landing page or a form. Now, we might state that in several different ways. We might have the click in a link, in a button, in a bar, in a footer, all these different places, but all roads lead to Oz. Then what we do, slide, is we capture all the rest of that, all those links that you would normally put in that email, we stuff them into our confirmation email. So when somebody fills out the form, we first of all display a web page that says, I've now captured your information and thank you for filling that out. So here are some places in our site you might like to visit. So in the upper right-hand corner, we have a testimonial, and that links to our testimonials page. Then we have our website, we have how to send us an email, we have our sales guys' contact information, we have all of our social media icons. So we're leaning more toward this format these days. We're finding a little bit more success with it, and I don't want to say that everyone will. I just want to say maybe you could test it too. This email also shows up at the inbox, and it also gives us that one more opportunity to make that conscious or subconscious relationship between our company name and our keywords. So SEO in outbound marketing, we believe, should happen at the point of engagement, and that is in this particular presentation, that is at the point of the email. So we believe that the email, the form, the landing page, and the submission confirmation page and submission confirmation email, we believe that all of those help you with your SEO. Even if I'm wrong, which I don't think I am, it's a great solid foundation, and it gets you in the habit of building SEO everywhere you go. So you can disagree with me, but I guarantee you, you are not going to hurt your results. Slide. We found that once you get started, oops, one more slide, please. You'll realize that SEO is actually a lifestyle. You will embed it everywhere, and you will start critiquing all of the emails that come to your inbox as whether or not they're SEO worthy. You'll start watching those emails, you'll contribute, you'll start doing it for yourself, and you will improve your SEO. slide. So it looks like I ran a little too quickly through that. I apologize. But I'd like to open it up for question and answers. Anthony?
Absolutely. Great. Thank you so much. Great information shared there. And just a reminder as we move into the Q&A portion here, if you do have a question that you have not posed yet, please still take the time to enter that in the chat. We're going to get through as many of these as we have the time to. Looks like we've got about 20 minutes, so it's going to be a great Q&A portion, so please keep those questions coming. One that has come in, I'm just going to answer overall because we may have others ask it, is a recording going to be available? And yes, indeed, after today's live webcast, we will be following up and you will be receiving a link to the full presentation, so please be on the lookout for that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump on in and start shooting some questions at you. First one comes from Brennan, and he wants to know what are other tools that he can use for evaluating keywords. And he says, obviously you spoke about Google and Google AdWords, things of that sort, but are there any others that you can suggest?
We do like Google tools for doing that. Our company doesn't actually engage in PPC, and we don't help clients with PPC, so I'm probably not the best person to ask. But in the cases where we are helping clients to build keyword lists, we do turn to Google.
Perfect. Excellent. Let's see. Oh, earlier you had mentioned some e-commerce keywords. I believe Patty was asking if you could just go through those one more time.
Oh, so they're all the things that you would use if you were buying dog food online. You would use, best price, lowest price, budget price, free, deal of the day, those kinds of things. Think like an e-commerce, or think like a shopper. And if you struggle with it, go online and actually try to buy something that you would normally buy and watch the words flow. They'll just sort of overwhelm you because you'll be thinking, oh yeah, if I want the best price on shoes, I'm going to say best price on shoes or shoe of the day, that sort of thing. Okay, perfect.
And let's see, we have a question going back again earlier in the presentation talking about the bounce rates. Gary was wondering if you had any kind of thoughts about what a cutoff is in regards to, or what would be considered a bad bounce rate.
There is no bad bounce rate. You have to evaluate the bounce rate based on the page. So you look at the page and determine how long should I engage someone on this page. If I was appropriate, if I built the right link and I didn't lie and they came, they knew what to expect, I did a good job of meeting those expectations, and when I read this page, it takes me about a minute and a half, then you can look at the bounce rate for that particular page. But it always alarms me when people talk about the bounce rate of their site because there's so many contributing factors. So if you decide that you have a page where it's a short form or just the quote of the day, it's going to take me 3 seconds to read that and I'm gone. So that bounce rate should be very high. If, however, you bring me to a page and you want to overload me with information and send me over here to get a white paper and over there to watch a video, of course my engagement should be longer. Now, you might scare me off. So when you have a high bounce rate on a page with a bunch of information, try reducing the information to just the topic you promised me, and then use an in-page menu to shuttle me off in the funnel you want me to take. So be careful not to judge your bounce rate on the entire site.
Excellent. Thanks so much for that. Again, earlier too, and I'm kind of taking the questions from beginning to end here, so we're going backwards in the presentation itself. But at one point you were talking about time being of the essence as far as time on a site. So Tony's question is, can you give a little bit more depth as to what is a good amount of time in regards to having something on the site?
Sure. Again, people tend to measure time on site as their entire site, and we measure time on site as per page. So we take a look at the page, we time ourselves, how long did it actually take me to read this, what do I want them to do once they've read it? Should I send them somewhere else? Or, is my hope that they'll go to somewhere else? Or do I just want them on this page? We like to build web pages that are 1.5 minutes long, and I'm sure that there are tons of people that would think that's so arbitrary, but we like it. And because we build virtually all of our pages 1.5 minutes long, we can then look at time on site in a little bit more broad terms than I'm telling you to do. Because I know that every page on my site takes 1.5 minutes to read, I can expect that my users should exceed 1.5 minutes because I want them to go to more than one page. So evaluate your pages independently. It's not that you should ignore the entire, the time on your entire site, but when you want to understand what's going on, you really need to dig just deeper. You need to go to a single page and measure that time on site. Hold up your stop clock. If it takes you 3 minutes to read that page and everybody's leaving after 45 seconds, you have too much information on that page. Roll the page back, give me just the topic you promised me, and give me in-page menus to somewhere else.
So would that be something to do when you're testing your site yourself? Because you talked about how a lot of us don't do enough of the testing. Do it at that point as well.
You can start that exercise today. I don't care how long your site's been around, you can do that today. Go in and look at time on page instead of time on site and start evaluating what's happening with those pages. If you have pages that are 4 minutes deep and people are leaving early, too much information. Roll it back.
Perfect. Good information there.
Did I get it right?
I would say so. Couple of questions here in regards to, I'm going to give you two separate questions, but we'll start with the first one. But they're both in regards to shortening codes and things of that sort. So first question from Melissa is, how do links like bit.ly and things of that sort where you're shortening the link, how does that affect SEO?
Well, so I don't like them. I want my link to be appropriate. I want to set the user's expectation. But there are times when links from bit.ly are necessary, and I believe that that time is in print media. So if you have a digital vehicle and they can click, there is no reason to shorten that link, none whatsoever. If, however, you're printing a brochure and you're sending somebody to your registration page to sign up, that link needs to be short and sweet so that people can remember it easily. Even if they've walked away from the poster or whatever they saw, if they've walked away, you want them to be able to remember it. So I do use link shorteners, but it's not very often.
Okay, perfect. And then again, kind of along that, not with bit.ly or what have you, but next question is just using shortened code in regards to social media and using them specifically in email subject lines where you've got, maybe someone wants to put in an emoticon, or instead of saying your, Y-O-U-R, they're using U-R, or something shortened that way. Any thoughts on doing that?
So my gut reaction would be it depends on the audience. Mm-hmm. If my email is going out to a bunch of Gen Yers, I might do that, but I probably wouldn't. That subject line, I want to use it. It is valuable real estate, and I want to be able to set my users' expectations appropriately. It all goes back to that being honest thing. If your subject line is not correct, when they open, they won't click through because you lied to them. So be relevant, and I watch all the forums, and I know that your subject lines, that the ones under 10 letters perform best and all that stuff. I get it, but you have to balance that between what your long-term goals are for the company and engaging users that are not appropriate for you. If you send that email to a person who's not interested in the message, telling them in such shorthand in the subject line that they don't even know, I just don't see it as being as useful as using that prime real estate to further my company.
Yep, agreed. I think audience is definitely essential with that. So, the next question is in regards to I think just search engine algorithms and updates and things of that sort. Cassie wants to know when when she's linking something, how do they avoid getting penalized by those search engine updates and things of that sort, even when they're writing for the reader and not necessarily the spider?
If you're honest, validated, credible, and you're not trying any little tricks, you don't need to worry about those updates. I swear to you, I do not read about an update until it is long since launched, because I have other things to worry about. I do best practices. I don't lie to the search engines. I don't lie to my users. I'm appropriate everywhere I go. I'm relevant everywhere I go. So the last thing I need to worry about is Google or anyone else writing new algorithms that are trying to filter out people who are trying to trick the system. I just don't have time to worry about it. I do the job right, and I don't have to worry about that percentage of the population that is causing Google to worry about these things.
Okay, perfect. Kind of move into the links within the emails and your landing pages and things of that sort. We had some questions come in on that. Specifically start with in regards to the emails. And as you said, a lot of times you start with an email and maybe not have quite as many clickable links within that, and then maybe do it more on the confirmation. But is there any sort of a goal number in regards to the number of links or clickable areas in that initial email where it doesn't turn into something where you look at it and it's overwhelming and you're going to lose them right there, then and there?
I would say that the number is something like a 3 or a 4. I would not overload my email. You want to make it short and sweet, get to the point, tell me what it's about. When I want more information, I'm going to go get it. So I would not have too many, but it's always going to depend on the message and the audience. I would say test it. If you are worried that you're using too many links, be drastic. Send your next email with one link, one great big button right in the center that sends them over to your landing page, and see what the results are. I think it'll surprise you. We really didn't expect to see the results that we got when we started stripping links out of emails. We tested it because I had read some article where somebody thought that it was a good idea. So we tested it, and we got really good results with it. So we're trying it for more and more clients and finding that really industry agnostic, it's turning out better for us.
Okay. Very good. With that, again, as we said, you're doing less on the email. So a question from Colin is, reducing the number of links within the email. Do you think that should also apply to landing pages as well?
Well, so our testing right now is one link in the email, one link in the landing page. So if the landing page is going to a form, we only give them that. Now, if the landing page is not going to a form, then our landing page looks a lot like that confirmation email that I had on the screen, where we have all of our social media, links to the website, email addresses, links to our sales guide, links to our testimonials. So it really depends on how extended your vehicle is, how many steps do you have in it, and what opportunities will you have for sharing these things.
Okay. And then along that same line, in regards to landing pages, we had a question from Rob, and he's asking, do you agree with the zero menu concept?
I'm getting there. I'm starting to like it. Zero menu in landing pages, definitely. We, for whatever reason, there has been a big shift in our web clients to talk about menus, and maybe it's just because we're talking about them more. But we are reducing the main nav menu. So we're using Google Analytics to show us in-page analytics, and if we have items in the main nav menu, and this is probably a little technical and I apologize, but if we have items in the main nav menu that account for less than 2% of the clicks, we take them out and move them down to the footer menu. So now, instead of having a main nav menu with 13 options, we're getting a lot of our clients down to just 2 and 3 options besides the home page. So it might be, home, services, products, and one other thing, and everything else gets moved to the footer. And then what we do once we have that is we do the in-page menu. So it will be a menu in the sidebar. that specifically only list the places where we want this particular visitor to go, because we know that this visitor is here to adopt boxers, okay? And so we have a menu over to the right that says adoption fees, days of adoption, that sort of thing. The normal questions that you would have if you were here. And basically everything else, we put it way below the fold, so down in the footer or more. Maybe we have a footer even above that menu, but we move them all down, and that Google in-page analytics tells us whether or not we're doing the right thing.
And Rob just expanded a little bit on that question, and so he's saying, again, sticking with the landing pages, do you recommend subdomains that are keyword optimized?
Oh, boy. For us, it really has depended on the client and what they're trying to promote. Spider Trainers does have some subdomains, but they're all really housekeeping subdomains. But I do have clients, I don't know. I'm not sure I have a position on that. I think it would depend on the project, what we were trying to accomplish and whether or not the subdomain was relevant.
Okay. That's fair. Question here, maybe a little bit more about kind of the content of the email. So Karen's asking, any thoughts on whether an email should be salesy or informative, or if it should be both, and if so, any ratio to one versus the other? A lot of stuff there.
Yeah, I think you have to test your audience. We do have a particular client set who really is only interested when we post new resources at our site, which is more of that inbound marketing kind of thing. Yes, we're telling them about it through outbound marketing, but we're engaging them through inbound. So I would say test your audience and then start doing segmentation within your list. So if you send out an email, and you could do it in one email, send out one email that, hey, save 50%, or hey, download this white paper, and as they click on the link, throw them into separate buckets, and then follow up with a triggered campaign that sends them messages that continues on either the save money route or on the here's engagement route. And I'd like to just use an example of a customer that we have that the way that they sell from day one is their sales team offers a discount on the product. And when we saw that, we said, well, do you know whether or not you can sell the product at at full price? And they said no. And I said, well, then let's stop giving money away because we don't know. So we developed an entire triggered campaign for them that the only time a discount ever gets into the picture is after we've exhausted the entire triggered campaign and tried every other trick. So it's download a white paper, watch a video, see a webcast, engage with us this way, but we never get to the offer until I think it's email 13 that they finally see a teeny tiny discount. And then we may or may not, after we've proven or disproven our theory, we may or may not offer another email that has a slightly bigger discount. We haven't actually gotten to the point where we've tested our theory and know one way or the other to decide whether or not we're going to try bigger discounts. But
excellent. Very good. Kind of along with that line as well, another question from Karen is, what are your thoughts about sections of the email or on the page where it says, like the home page where you've got about us or contact us, those sorts of things. Are those good for SEO rankings?
Well, on the one hand, they are, because they are an accurate, relevant, credible link, right? So it's a link that goes into your home page. If somebody clicks contact us in your email, surely they're expecting to get to a contact us page. If they click the home link in your email, surely they're expecting to go to the home of your website. The problem is that you sort of fracture the attention of the user, of the recipient. So you sent me this email and you've given me all these great buttons. Oh my gosh, where do I click first? And oh, I'm going to click this one. And they don't even see your offer until they've already clicked a couple of links, and it fractured their attention. So that's kind of why we're leaning toward this whole landing or email where they have one click. However, I say that, and we sent out an email this morning that had all of those menu things, and it was for an insurance company. But we just kind of felt like, based on this client, the message that they had, the audience they were reaching, that we would like the opportunity to engage them at the website whether or not the particular offer was of interest to them.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to go back just a little bit in regards to what we were talking about earlier and go back and revisit bounce rate. We have a question here from Irene, and she's wondering if the bounce rate is based on a limited time as a fixed measurement.
On a limited time as a fixed measurement. So I have read a couple of reports that say something like 10 seconds, and I read another one that said 15 seconds. And I think the Advanced Google, what was that book? Advanced Google Analytics. I can't remember who the publisher was. But the author was somebody who had worked at Google, and as I recall, he said 15 seconds. But I'll tell you right up front, I honestly don't know what the number is.
Okay. Somewhere around in there, though, it sounds like. So.
I think it is, yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. And, I think we've got time for one more. So I'm going to pose this one from Patrick. His question is, do you think that a marketer should design and code emails the same way that they do for a web page or a landing page, using the same practices for meta tagging, social linking, things of that sort?
I certainly like it when they do. We are a network of 86 freelancers, and it's how we code. Now, we don't have meta description and meta tags at that level, but we do the H1 and that sort of thing. So I think there's a balance. We haven't tested whether or not adding the full meta stuff at the top works. However, if you're using marketing automation software, most of the marketing automation software is going to strip that stuff out anyway, so putting it in is useless. You really can only kind of get away with what starts at the body tag. And even some softwares will strip out the body tag too. So if you're putting something in the header area, you're losing it, but probably. I mean, I of course haven't tested all of the softwares out there, but my guess is 9 times out of 10, or maybe even 9.8 times out of 10, you're losing that anyway.
Okay. All right. Well, and that takes us right up to our scheduled end time. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Cyndie, thank you so much for all the information that you shared. I think we got a lot from the presentation, and I think the Q&A was really nice and robust. So on behalf of the audience, thank you so much for all of the work you did today.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate having been here and having this had this opportunity. Thank you.
Absolutely. And again, a reminder to everyone, we are going to be sending out follow-up emails later today that will contain the recording link, so you're going to be able to revisit this at your convenience, so look out for that. Keep the conversation going on Twitter. We had a lot of good back and forth there. Again, that hashtag for today that we used was ActOnSoftware. And so in closing, I'd like to thank Act On Software, who was our generous sponsor for today's webcast, as well as ReadyTalk, who provided us with the web platform that we did use. If you'd like to learn more about ReadyTalk and their services, please visit readytalk.com/AMA. And last but not least, I'd like to thank you, the audience, for your time and participation, and remind you to join us every week for our Thought Leader webcast. That does end our presentation for today. Thank you so much for joining, and have a great rest of your day.